Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. Michael Dwojak here, joining you with the Northwest Herald's very own Joe Aguilar. We got a schedule to talk about. We've The Bears and the NFL announced their schedule on Wednesday night. Obviously, we know who they're going to play and where and all that sort of stuff, but now we get to actually know what it looks like, and it's a very interesting schedule. We'll break it all down for you folks. Just before we get started, just a quick reminder to give us a like. That's the best way to support us here on the YouTube live stream. Appreciate you guys joining us on the live stream. And if you're listening to this later on the podcast, always appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a nice little review. That's the best way to support us and kind of grow the brand here as we kind of continue on here during the off season. But Joe, schedule week's always interesting to me because obviously we know the schedule, we know like who they're going to play and all that sort of stuff. But when you finally see it and you see like, all right, this date here, it's going to be Monday night, Sunday night, what are the road trips like and that sort of stuff. It really does kind of get you excited for the fall, and just we're getting closer there. We're a few months away.
Yeah, you know what? One of my since I've been a Bears fan, which is long, long, long time, one of my favorite things to do in the fall is sit down and watch a noon Bears game at Soldier Field. Right? I mean, whether it's game one or they're out of the playoff race and it's later in the season, it's just fun. Michael, what happened? I know we got to play on every single night of the week now with the NFL, right? But the Bears don't play a noon home game at Soldier Field until week 7. They are on the road. They got the Monday night game. They've got a 3:00 game against Dallas in week 3. Can we just have a noon game at Soldier Field? But I guess I'm showing my age there, and I guess that just really doesn't happen much anymore. But good for the Bears. They're going to be, they want to see Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, the NFL, I'm sure, everyone outside of Chicago. So you got some some Sunday night game or Monday night games. You got the Black Friday game. 2:00 start was weird, but all good. And the schedule, I heard, Michael, that someone said, the Bears have like the toughest schedule in the NFC or something. I'm like, really? Coming off a lousy season? But then again, they play in the NFC North. Everyone in the NFC North is good. So yeah, you got to play the Packers twice. You got to play the Lions twice. You got to play the Vikings twice. So that probably where it all factors in, because that's 6-year games right there. So, and yeah, if the NFC North was weak like it had been for many years, it'd be looking at a little different, I guess, for the Bears.
Yeah, it's that NFC North and that AFC North, right? You got
Yes.
the Bengals, you got the Ravens, you got the Steelers in there, and even the Browns
Exactly.
with some new guys. But yeah, like you said, there aren't a lot of noon games. Just going through the schedule real quick, they'll start things off at Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings on September 8th. Then they travel to Detroit for Ben Johnson's return on some Sunday, September 14th. That's a noon game. Week 3 is on September 21st. That's at Soldier Field. That's a 3:25 start. And then they go to the Raiders in week number 4 for a 3:25 start on September 28th. Then they get that week 5 bye. We'll talk a little bit about that really early bye. Week 6 is at the Commanders for Monday Night Football. Week 7 is New Orleans Saints at home. That's a noon game. Week 8 is at the Baltimore Ravens, noon game. Week 9 is at Cincinnati Bengals. That's a noon game on a Sunday. Then the Bears come back home for week 10 against the Giants, November 9th. Then they go to Minnesota on November 16th. Steelers come here for week 12 on November 23rd. Then the Bears go to the Philadelphia Eagles for that Black Friday game on November 28th. They host the Green Bay Packers in week 14th for a Sunday noon game. They go to Green Bay for that game. They host the Browns for a noon game on Sunday in week 15. Then they host the Packers for a Saturday, likely afternoon or evening game on December 20th. Go to the 49ers for Sunday Night Football on December 28th. And then they host the Detroit Lions to cap the regular season. Obviously, that game isn't set in stone because NFL likes to see how the season's going and kind of pick their matchups for that final week. So it'll either be a Sunday or Saturday game. But Joe, it's become very clear that the NFL is believing in Caleb Williams. It's very clear that they're believing in Ben Johnson. And, despite having a 5-12 record, the Bears are going to be in 5 standalone games. They start the season on Monday Night Football. Then they play against the Commanders on Monday Night Football. They get that Philadelphia Eagles Black Friday game. They get the Green Bay Packers on a Saturday afternoon by themselves. And then they get that San Francisco 49ers game on Sunday Night Football. And that Week 18 game could also turn into a primetime game. So, it seems like the NFL, whether it's just the Chicago market, whether it's just, there's a lot of interesting storylines. The NFL believes in the Bears, it seems like, and is really going to put them on the spotlight this year.
Yeah, and I think everyone around the NFL is curious to see what kind of work and job that Ben Johnson will do, right? And you got the quarterback, the number 1 pick 2 years ago. So that's the buzz. I mean, Johnson was coveted by everyone really looking for a head football coach, essentially last offseason, the last 2 off seasons. So now everyone wants to see, they know he's smart. They want to see, can he be a head coach? I think we're going to find out early, but certainly, like you said, Michael, Chicago's still the third largest market in the country. You got the quarterback. Everyone wants to root for him or hope he fails. And then you got the head coach, and everyone wants to see what this Bears offense looks like under Ben Johnson, and can he finally right the ship, or can the Bears finally take control of the North and never give it back? Now, in Ryan Pohl's defense, he never said what year, right? I mean, we could be, the run could start in 2040. Look out. Here come the Bears. But if they're ever going to get out of this, cellar in the NFC North, you're going to find out early here with the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah, there's no. I was kind of doing this, and I'm going to be putting out a ranking of the toughest games, easiest games for our Friday paper and for Friday online. And Rick is joining us, and he commented 4-5 on the road, 6-2 at home seems reasonable. I think that really shows you. And when I was kind of putting together the rankings, this is a very interesting schedule where it's like the home games don't really scare me too much. Like obviously the division is going to be tough at home. But you got the Browns at home, you got the Giants at home, you got the Saints at home, and then you got the Cowboys at home outside of the division. None of those scare me too much, but the road games, I mean, at Detroit, even at Vegas, at Washington, for Monday Night Football, at Baltimore, at Cincinnati, at Minnesota, at Philadelphia, at Green Bay, at San Francisco. I mean, I don't think any of those road games are easy, right? Like, not that any game in the NFL is easy, but like none of those are probably games where you're going to be heavily favored or favored at all, honestly.
No, I mean, and look, we're still looking at the Bears as a 5-win team from a year ago. So really, like you said, I mean, someone's JV looks like a formidable opponent for the Bears coming off, last season, the season before that, the season before that, the season before that. So that's the way it's going to be. And that's why, this is so hard to tell. I'm always like, let's see what it looks like first before we start making predictions of 9 wins, 10 wins, 6 wins for the Bears, because we really don't know what it's going to look like. And I think we'll know early on in those preseason games what they start with Miami, and then you got Buffalo, KC. I know it's preseason, and last year they went undefeated in the preseason, and then we know what happened during the regular season. Yeah. But I want to see what they look like, because look, they start out and they lay an egg against Minnesota on Monday night in that opener and JJ McCarthy. And then they go to Detroit and they lay an egg and they lose, period, in week 1. Now you go to Detroit, Lions should win at home, you'd think, even if the Bears show some promise. Now you're looking at 0-2. And oh boy, here come all the haters again. And here we go again. You know what it's going to be like here in Chicago and nationally. People are probably going to relish the fact that you thought the Bears are going to be better. Here they are, 0-2 right off the bat. So now it's really going to be an uphill climb. So all those games can be tough. But on the other hand, and it's tough to be an optimist when you live in Chicago, and you have for as long as I have in this city, this great city. But we got to see the good first, because if they maybe they start out 2-0, maybe they start. Would you take 2-1 for a start? I would. With Dallas in week 3 at home, but you got to establish yourself early. And I'm not going to buy the Bears should be better, later in the season, maybe give Ben Johnson and this offense time to get acclimated, get used to their new coach, their new roles, etc. you don't have that long in the National Football League. You can't be, picking it up finally in week 14. It's too late. And people are going to be calling for your head already. And I'll tell you what, if the Bears do get off to a bad start, I think Ben Johnson might get, and he's going to get the benefit of the doubt 2 games in. But Ryan Poles, remember last year, Michael, you were at that camp. They're talking about it's going to be tough to make this roster. Really? Halfway through the season, they were looking for competent players. So they've got to get off to a good start. Otherwise, I think more of the heat's going to fall on Ryan Poles. And, we've talked a lot about, especially in the last couple of podcasts you and I have done about this 2025 draft class. We need to see more from this 2024 draft class and the 2023 draft class, especially that class more with the Gervon Dexter and those guys. We got to see a little more from those guys, because if they're not going to step up their game, this team is in trouble, because then you're looking at, I don't have that 2023 draft in front of me, but if that's a failed class other than Darnell Wright, you're in trouble again, regardless of how good Colston Loveland's going to be, or if Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze pick up their game, which I think they will. I think they'll be better in their second season in the National Football League than they were last year. But we got to see more, and I think that's going to be important going forward, is what do we have in that 2023 draft class in particular?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of things are going to be learned about, this season, especially early. I kind of want to go a little bit through the portions of the schedule. So like you mentioned, let's look at the first, whatever you would want to call it, a quarter, third, whatever. Math wasn't my strong suit. You start off with Minnesota on Monday Night Football. Like you mentioned, obviously JJ McCarthy likely makes his first career start. He makes it obviously back home against a team that he grew up, rooting for. And then you got at the Lions. I was kind of surprised by this. That at Lions game, Ben Johnson, a lot of the Detroit guys who kind of came over with him with the Bears. If it was going to be early, I'm surprised that it's a noon game. Were you surprised at all about that? Because that just seemed like a game that the NFL would be like, I mean, hello, Ben Johnson coming back to Detroit, Caleb Williams, NFC North. That just seemed like a primetime game. And I'm kind of surprised that they just chose to put it on, week 2 at noon.
Yeah, and I don't know the logistics of how they, you can't do this, because what you don't know is this is going on here and all that stuff, how the NFL makes out their schedule. But I think the Bears at Detroit Monday night season opener, that's the game. I mean, that'd be a great intrigue there. But you're kind of burying that game in a noon game at Detroit. I don't know what the other games are. I haven't looked at the entire NFL schedule for week 2, but that Bears Lions are right. It should be more of a marquee game. Giants at noon, Bears. Okay, that's the game, right? A noon Bears Browns game. That's the game, but not Bears Lions. I think there's more going to be more interest in that game nationally. I think that would have been a great Monday night game. Certainly. I mean, can you imagine Ben Johnson go back to Detroit to kick off the season on Monday Night Football? Let's go.
Yeah, it just seemed like a layup, right? Like a Monday Night Football, a Sunday Night Football. Even I don't remember if they do Thursday Night Football that early. I think they do, but it just seemed like you could have done a standalone game for that. Even the 325, right? It just seems weird just to kind of put it at noon. I don't know, obviously, I've talked about this a lot. Obviously, September football in the NFL isn't pretty. It's not what it used to be. A lot of teams, win games that they probably shouldn't be winning. A lot of good teams lose games that they shouldn't be losing in September. That's just the way of the league at this point, where September is a little bit different than it used to be. But it did just seem weird just to put such a marquee matchup in week 2 at a noon game, on Fox. Maybe Fox wanted it that way. I'm not an executive. I'm not a TV executive. I don't know what the inner workings of that are, but I mean, it's an interesting stretch. Something else I wanted to talk about, the week 5 bye was surprising and kind of weird to me. And I kind of view it 2 ways. One way, it could be a good thing where maybe you have a new team. Maybe you're still trying to figure things out and things aren't really going your way. Maybe you start the season 2-2. Maybe you start the season 1 or 3, right? That could be a good, hey, let's recalibrate. Let's see how things are kind of going. Maybe we need to change this. New coaching staff, new head coach. I need to look at it this way. Sure, that could maybe work. But I mean, the negative part of it is you've got a long stretch there without a bye. And sure, you've got
Yep.
a little bit of a longer week with that Black Friday game. So you'll go from Friday to, I think it's a Sunday. Um, yeah, you are going to a Sunday, so you'll have a longer week there, kind of like a mini bye. But at that point, that week 5 bye, I just don't like that. That seems too early in the season. I didn't even know that you could do it that early in the season. But I when I saw that week 5 bye, Joe, I was kind of like, you would have liked to see that a little bit later, especially for a team like this.
Yeah, and honestly, and I'm not going to tell you I've thought too much about this, but it was just came into my head while you were talking. Look, the NFL does not have an All-Star break, right? There's
Yeah.
no mid-season. I just the whole randomness of the bye week, I don't get. Why don't you just say week 9, no one plays, hypothetically. Week 8, week 10, everyone gets no football, and the NFL will find something to put on TV for Sunday anyway. But everyone gets then it's equal across the board. Everyone gets a week off, and then we resume football the next day. I don't know. It's just off the top of my head. I'm not telling you, like, I've been researching this the last several weeks. It just came into my head. But week 5 is early. It really depends, right? And maybe you're banged up. Maybe one of your star players gets hurt in week 4. Not a major injury, but then it's good timing, right? Oh, good. Caleb gets a week to heal from getting smashed in the mouth because the left tackle failed to protect him or something like that. We just don't know. So it really just depends on where you're at as a team physically. But I'm sure the whole season, every coach would tell you, you're learning throughout, instituting new stuff for that particular opponent that week. So I don't know if there's ever an ideal time for it that you can predict anyway. Like, if ideally, when would you like to have it? I don't know if you gave every NFL team, this ain't going to happen, but Pittsburgh Steelers, when would you like your bye week?
Yeah.
I don't know if they'd have a particular answer for that, or any team would,
Yeah,
it's like,
sure.
well, check back with me in week 4, and I'll tell you when we need the bye week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure teams would love that. CJ kind of has an interesting point. TV partners would be mad, Joe. I don't think the TV partners would love your no football for a week. Your no football for a week plan. I'm sure people would watch. I mean, people watch the Pro Bowl, right? Like, people will watch whatever the NFL puts out there. But yeah, I don't see. I don't know.
It probably won't happen. But in the NFL, they'd find something.
Sure.
But to fill, you wouldn't be like Sunday free, no game at all.
Yeah.
There'd be something they could do. But right, with so many platforms now available where you can get games, like even that Friday, that Good Friday, the Black Friday game, excuse me. It's on. Is it on Prime?
Yeah, it's on Prime.
Yeah, Prime Video. Not everyone gets that, and that one, 2:00 Friday. I don't know. I just don't see myself like getting. People are working or doing other things or shopping. Of course, all Black Fridays, all shopping's done online anyway these days. Yeah. No one goes to, Kohl's and sits out in front of the line at 2 a.m. Do they do that anymore?
I think those days are gone.
Right, they're gone.
Maybe the diehards who still just want to do the tradition of it.
The sleeping bag, and they got their coffee, 2 a.m. Can't wait to get into Kohl's.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, that's another big thing, right? Where obviously you see, like, that. I think it was the Chiefs and Chargers game in Brazil for it to start things off. That's going to be on YouTube, right? Like, the NFL is just, and the Christmas is obviously on Netflix. Like, you just see how the NFL is just trying to get as much money as they can from all these different partners. And I do think that the good thing is, like, obviously the local like, if your team is playing on those things, your local market has to show it to you. So luckily, like, it will be like a Fox 32 game if you don't have Amazon Prime or something like that. But yeah, I mean, you do see it in the schedule. Just, they do play every single day, and it's just interesting how much the NFL just kind of keeps on going with. I mean, you see that Green Bay Packer game on December 20th. That's going against the college football playoff, right? Like, that's going to be the first round, and the NFL has pretty much told you, I don't care. Like, Christmas, I don't care. The NFL is pretty much just like, we don't care. Like, we will put up the numbers. We will probably beat the NBA on Christmas. We'll beat college football playoffs on Saturday, and we're just going to take over, I mean, the world at this point.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, right, there's an arrogance to the NFL. They obviously know what they're doing, but they can do that. I don't. You can put whatever you want on TV. We're playing. And you will watch us because we're the NFL. And you know what? People will.
And they will. That's the thing. Like
Yeah,
we were talking about, you can put on flag football, and people will watch and bet on it and do whatever they want because
yeah,
that's just what the NFL.
yep,
I want to talk about an interesting stretch here that I think this stretch could really define your season. Not only because it's a huge chunk of your season from week 6 to week 14. But during that 9-game stretch, the Bears play 6 out of 9 games on the road. They play at the Commanders, at the Ravens, at the Bengals, at the Vikings, at the Eagles, at the Packers. They sprinkle in home games against the Saints, Giants, and Steelers. Joe, that stretch would be hard for any team, just having to go on the road 6 times out of back-to-back weeks to Baltimore and Cincinnati. But for a team that's I think we have a lot of high hopes for this team, obviously, but this is still a team that has a new head coach, a new coaching staff, a quarterback who's in year 2, trying to find himself, cement himself in the NFL, an offensive line that obviously is trying to get together, a defensive line that's still looking for an edge rusher. For how optimistic we can be about this team, there's still a lot of questions about this team. And having to play 6 out of 9 games on the road, I mean, that's tough. That's where you're going to learn a lot about this team, and that essentially is going to define whether this team is going to be a playoff contender or whether this team might be a year away.
and that really puts maybe an onus more on the first part of the season before that stretch there to get some wins and to be ready early. No growing pains here for the offense, and defensively, I still have concerns, but not offensively too, because we just don't know what it's going to look like under Ben Johnson. But defensively, yeah, I mean, I don't think, I still think, I think you think too, they're still missing an edge rusher. Now, whether they can get Trey Hendrickson in a trade, there are rumors out there. I don't know if that's going to happen, and I don't even know if the Bears, you might have a better pulse on it, but if they're done, maybe they're going to wait a while here if it's only middle of May. But if they're going to do more to beef up that defense, especially up front. And again, I want to see more safety help there. Jaquan Brister, you go, man. You get healthy, stay healthy. But I don't know if you can. But to get back to your question, yeah, get some wins early, because then you got that stretch, and like a baseball team, if they got the Cubs West Coast road trip or something, let's come away 500 of that. Let's keep our head above water here, and then get some home games, get some the easier part of the schedule, and make hay there. But just basically survive that stretch, stay healthy during that stretch, and hopefully improve during that stretch, even if you lose some close games. But if you're competitive against some really good football teams, in a way, as you know, I mean, you could have a loss, but it might be, you might gain some confidence. Not the whole moral victory thing. No one goes for that at any level, in any sport, but just keep improving and showing signs. And then when the schedule lightens up a little bit, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that stretch, what would you consider a success in that 9-game stretch? Or do you consider going 3-6 a success? Do you consider
No,
going 4-6 a success? I mean, obviously, you are going to need to steal a game on the road, whether it's the Commanders, whether it's the Ravens, the Bengals. I think that Vikings game is a really good opportunity to do so. Maybe the Packers game, the Eagles game on the road on Black Friday is just going to be a tough test. But
sure.
what do you feel like is a success at that point? Like, do you 4 and 5? Like, what do you feel like works for that team?
Yeah.
If they go through that, they're going to be in a good spot heading into the final month of the season.
Yeah, I think you got to get at least 4 wins there. You can't be 3-6. I mean, you just can't. I mean, you got to win at least 4 of those games. And we do see, this is not like baseball where you got to wait for your farm system to develop, or the National Hockey League, same thing. In the NFL, you can turn things around quickly. You can. I'm not saying the Bears are ready to compete for a Super Bowl in 2025 or even next year, but you got to start making some strides here. And they did a lot in the offseason. I know we can get the whole thing about winning the offseason. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, but they have had a good offseason. I don't think it's an A+, but I think it's an A. I mean, they're better football team. I'm going to be shocked. Of course, I was shocked last year too. I didn't think they'd be that bad. I think they're going to be a much improved football team this year. And I understand everyone's pessimism. I get it. And again, we've been punched in the jaw so much with this franchise the last several years. And I am in that group, like I need to see it first, but I need to see it quickly. And I think we'll know quickly is this, oh my gosh, here we go again. They can't score 18 points in a football game even. We're going to find out early, and then expectations will change. But like with every team, every sports fan, we're going to overevaluate. We're going to game one, it's going to be here we go, Super Bowl, here we come, or here we go. We're looking at another top 10 pick of the draft pick. That's going to be the reaction after week one, right? Because that's the way we are as sports fans.
Sure.
And then the same thing in Detroit. If it's a good game, maybe there's hope. But if we get smoked there, it's like, oh boy, we're still not. We got their OC, their DC left as well, the Lions, and they're still the team to beat in the NFC North. So I'm excited. I'm not ready for football just yet, Michael, because my goodness, it's finally getting warm in Chicago. Can we just enjoy the summer before we start thinking about the fall and football? But it's pretty much football 12 months out of the year now anyway.
Yeah, it never really stops. And I agree. Like, obviously, like what you did last year doesn't really matter this year. I think that's the biggest thing, the parity about this league, where worst teams are able to turn it around, great teams are able to flip flop and that sort of stuff, and that's why we love the game so much. Rick chiming in, he thinks that 4-5, the Bears will go in that 9-game stretch. CJ going 5-4 during that stretch. I think if you go 4-5 during that stretch, I think that's a success. I think, I think you go. I think if you go 3-1 in your first 4 games, I think that sets you up really well to go 4-5, because then you're at 7-6 at that point, if my mental math is correct, and 7-6 heading into the final few months. That's kind of what you expect at that point, right? Like I expect this team, and that obviously we'll change everything going training camp, but I expect this team to be a 9-8 win team. Like, I think that this team is going to make great progress. I think they left a lot of wins on the board last year, but the schedule is tough. Like, even if you can say, I know there's been a lot saying like the Bears have the second toughest schedule based off of last year's records. Well, how much can you really take from last year's records? I think the biggest thing you take from this is the Bears are playing teams who regularly make the playoffs. 5 of the teams that they play this year are teams who have made the playoffs at least 2 years in a row. 7 teams made the playoffs last year. That doesn't mean that all of them are going to make the playoffs this year, but this isn't a schedule where you're playing against teams who are like, oh, it was a blip year last year and they're going to go back down. You're playing against the Ravens, who are always there, the Eagles, who are always there, the Packers, the Lions, the Steelers make it every year, even though they maybe don't make it a deep run, like the Bengals. Like, Bengals didn't make the playoffs last year, but I think a lot of people would be like, hey, this is going to be a contender, right? Yeah. So yes, you're going against a team that, obvious teams that had good records last year, but I think you're going against teams that have shown that they can compete for the playoffs every single year. And I think that's what makes this schedule so difficult, and what makes that middle portion of the schedule so difficult as well.
Yeah, no, I think you articulated that really well, and you're spot on, right? These are teams that have proven they're not one-year wonders, and then they're picking in the top 10 the next year, and then they have a good year in playoffs, and then they're back in the bottom, the top 10 of the drafts again. You're right. I mean, all those teams, even Cincy, with the big trio there with Burrow, Chase, and T. Higgins. That's if you win at Cincy, especially there, man, that's a big win for the Bears, right? But yeah, I'm excited to see Baltimore. But it's gonna be a really good test. Another thing too, I want to see, are they competitive in these games? Because last year, as we know, there are too many games at halftime. It was over. It's like go out and do lawn, go out and do yard work. Yeah. It's over. It's not even worth watching this anymore. So are they going to be competitive in those games? Because if they're not, it can spiral quickly. I mean, if you have that bad stretch there, you're looking at a top 10 pick potentially again, because it could really spiral poorly here, downward. And it's not going to be, it could get really ugly. And we saw that last year. I just don't, maybe I'm still a little naive. I still think they're better with this coaching staff and who they brought in, not only with Ben Johnson, but the guys around him, the personnel they brought in on the field, offensively, even some of the guys they brought in defensively, the draft class. I just can't. I think 9 wins has to be the expectation. Would that make you 9-17 games? So 9-8. You got to be shooting for that at least, if not 10 wins. That has to be the expectation. 7-10 is not a good season. That's not. We can't have that. 8-9 is not a good. I'm trying to do my math here. It's got to add up to 17. That's not good enough. It's got to be 9-10, and they've done everything really they can. Not everything, but to improve on the field, upstairs, and we have to start seeing it. And in this league, you can't see it. It doesn't have to be a 5-year plan. You don't get 5 years. Well, Ryan Pace did, I guess. He was on the 10-year plan, but generally, you don't get that much time to figure it out. And I do think they're gonna be a much better football team this year.
Yeah, Rick is kind of echoing your point. Like, this is why they hired, Ben to get us over the tough games. And I would agree with that assessment of what you're kind of getting at, Joe, where, this is a team with, I mean, from what we've seen in one rookie mini camp, right? Like, obviously this is all off-season hype, like all the honeymoon and all that sort of stuff. Right. But you expect Ben Johnson to kind of be more holding these guys more accountable, getting them more ready for what they're going to face this season than the previous coaching staff did. That's why you hired him. That you hired him for his, great offensive play calling, being able to take advantage of different tools that the Bears got together this year, but also because it just seems like, based on what we've seen so far, that he's able to lead a room. He's able to kind of instill something in the team that is going to help them win those tough games in Cincinnati, at the Commanders, all this, maybe the Ravens, right? So it'll be really interesting to see, going back to that original point about the middle of the season. That's where your coaching staff makes a difference, right? That's where your coaching staff prepares you to go to 6 out of 9 games on the road, to travel a lot, to change your schedule, to prepare you to be as ready as possible for whatever you face on during the weekend. So I agree. I think the coaching staff makes a big difference there, and they'll make a big difference in that stretch there. Joe, they get the Browns at home in Week 15. We don't know who the quarterback is, and I don't want to start talking about must wins because it's May, right? Like, obviously you don't have must wins in May, but that's close to being one at that point. And then you finish off the season at home, Green Bay Saturday. Then you go to Sunday Night Football at San Francisco, and then you finish the season against Detroit. That end of the season, I mean, that's just a tough way to end. Packers, San Francisco, Lions. I mean, if you want to make the playoffs, you're going to have to win 2, if not all 3 of those games.
Yeah, hey, if you want to, again, this is a tough division now, the NFC North. So, yeah, you got all these games. I said 8 earlier. I think it's 6, right? Lions 2, Packers 2. Yeah. Those 6 games, not 8. Anyway, again, my math, I got a D in my 1 year of college math. That means I would pass, Michael. Got a D. D stands for done.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to beat the Packers. You got to beat the Vikings. You got to beat the Lions. They're all better than you right now. But if you're ever going to get out of the cellar, you got to beat those teams, and you have to be the team that say the Pack. You got to be this team that's saying the Packers fear you. The Lions fear you, and that'll come someday. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but it has to start happening sometime. And this year, all the arrows are pointing up for this team to do it. But so maybe it's not as daunting. We'll know mid-season, maybe early in the season, how good this football team will be. But that last stretch there. And then Niners team, they weren't good last year, banged up and everything, and everyone's hurt. They still whipped the Bears. That's another game where, at halftime, that was over. Everyone turn off your TV, go do lawn work, go take care of your yard, go do shopping, because that game was over. So that's just such a great franchise. And like you said, teams, used to making the playoffs every year, not 1 year wonders and that kind of thing. That's a team. So that's going to be a tough game. On the West Coast right after Christmas, or Sunday the 28th, and then you finish up. At least the Lions game is at home. If home field makes a difference. But how long do the Bears have that stretch of not winning at Soldier Field? So again, when you're bad at football, when you're a bad football team and you win 5 games in a season, that means you're bad on the road and you're bad at home because you're bad. And they've got to start changing the narrative, right? And then maybe again at the end of the year, you're looking at those teams are looking at you like, well, we got a couple tough games coming up, and one of them is against the Bears. That's what you got to start changing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got to start winning those games, and that means obviously beating the Packers as well. And obviously, they ended the regular season last year beating the Packers. A couple, CJ and Rick both brought up this point. The Bears don't see the Packers until December, and then they play them in 2 out of 3 weeks. What are your thoughts about that? I don't really like that. Like, I understand that the NFL doesn't want to do either the season opener or the regular season finale against the Packers. I get it if they've overdone it a little bit here, but I 2 out of 3 games, that's just, you need to separate it a little bit. What if Caleb gets hurt for a 3-week stretch and misses both of those games? Like, obviously,
right.
If you're the sky, I just feel like you could have swapped out some of those games, whether you could have put them a little bit earlier in the season, maybe you put them in October, maybe you switch out that Saints game with the Packers. I'm not sure exactly, but I don't like them playing against each other 2 out of 3 weeks, especially for how important we're all kind of expecting those matchups to be.
Yeah, I don't think that is a good look. And again, there's the 32 teams. It's tough to squeeze everybody in and make everything look perfect for every football team. Yeah, like how would you like your schedule to look? But yeah, it's almost like they wedged those games in. Like, oh, it's right, we got Bears Packers. Oh, we haven't scheduled that Bears Packers game yet, and then we got like 5 games left this season. We better get them in. But 2 times in 3 weeks, that was glaring to me when I saw the schedule initially. I don't like it. I don't need to be waiting until what's the date? December 20th for the first Packers game? No, it's I'm sorry, December 7th. But yeah, regardless, I don't want to be waiting until December to see Bears Packers. It's still the oldest rivalry in the National Football League.
Yeah.
And I know it hasn't been much of a rivalry for a long time because the Packers continue to kick the Bears' butt. But I don't like that. I don't like that 2 and 3 weeks. And you made a good point about and even the Packers, what if Jordan Love is out that stretch? It's not good. That's not good for them too. Like, yeah, you get us when our starting quarterback is out for 3 weeks. We got our Bears twice, and it's 2 division games. So
yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. Kind of weird to have him do it. Joe, we've got 5 or 10 minutes left. I was debating whether I wanted to do this or not, but I'm going to do it just because it's meatballish and it's fun, and it's May. It's fun to kind of dream. Where I am going to make us go through every game and do win-loss.
Okay.
But I want everyone at home to not hold us accountable to what we choose now, because we have the right to change what we think. Based on what we see here in the OTAs, mini camp, and training camp. But it's a fun activity and it's fun fodder and all that kind of stuff. So, Joe, I'm going to make you go through it. Week 1, Monday Night Football against Minnesota. What do you think?
Win. Got to win. Rookie quarterback. You lose to a rookie quarterback on Monday Night Football. Oh, my goodness. Here we go again, right? Hey, Chicagoans, we're going to root for J.J. McCarthy. Tough to root for, though, when the local kid is playing on an NFC North team. But you can't lose to a rookie. I know the Vikings were good. They got Jettas. They're still a loaded football team. They made a lot of improvements defensively in the offseason, which they had to do. But you got to beat them. So I'm saying a W. Good start for the Bears, and we're 1-0. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm there with you too. I'm going to go with the W. I feel like that's a good, if you're going to start off in the division, that's a good division game to start off the season with. JJ obviously going to have his likely first career start, so we'll see how that kind of goes. But yeah, I'm there with you. Week 2 at Detroit.
Boy, we'll see how optimistic I am after the week 1 performance. But right now, I mean, look, Lions are the Lions, right? And even though they lost both coordinators, and it's at Detroit. Okay, it's a loss. 1-1. Here come the haters.
I'm there with you too. This game is kind of interesting to me because I think both teams are still going to feel out who they are and what they can do. Yeah. But I think since this game is at Detroit, I'm going to give it to the Lions. Just it's a tough atmosphere to play in, and I just think it'll be a tough matchup. Week 3 at home against the Cowboys. Joe,
got to beat them. It's a W. You got to beat them. You got to beat this team. They're a little down, and they'll love Dak back, and still good. Still a lot of talent on that football team. But home game, let's go Bears.
Yeah, I think that one. Yeah, I'm there with you too. So you and I are in lockstep so far, 2-1. I think they beat the Cowboys. I think that'll be a good game. I don't think it'll be a blowout by any means,
No,
but I do think that that the Bears are going to win that game. Week 4, the Bears go to Sin City and play Las Vegas in the afternoon. Joe, what do you think happens in that one?
we call that a trap game sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Raiders, new look. I don't know
in
what they're going to,
Vegas.
right? Careful, boys. Uh, get a W. If the Bears are rolling, I got them. I got a W there. That's 4-1 by
3-1.
3-1. 3-1.
Yes.
Oh boy,
I'm
3-1.
going there. I'm going
I'm
with
drinking
the.
the Kool-Aid,
I
man.
know this is every time we do this, I'm like, I don't know. I need to calm down here a little bit. But yeah, I think they win 3-1. I think 2-2 is possible. I think that you would not surprise me if they went 2-2. But 3-1, I think that's also what they're going to do. Week 5 is a W, obviously. Week 6 at the Commanders, starting a tough 9-game stretch. Do the Bears get redemption, Joe?
I think this is at well, they're all important games. This is an important game. I think, look, they beat them last year until the failed Mary. They beat them. They didn't play great. Caleb did nothing for 3 quarters. The offense did nothing for 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden, they survived the fumble to the center, Doug Kramer. They would have won despite that, right? How much time do I have to make this call, Michael? Because this is a toughie.
You got
I'm
5
still drinking the
seconds.
Kool-Aid at this point. We're 3-1.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're gonna
Yeah.
go, and Caleb's gonna go show that yes, the Bears did make the right call and pick me number 1 overall and not Jaden Daniels. But that Washington team, they're ascending. I mean, they made some really good moves in the offseason. Caleb might outperform Jaden, but I think at this point, our current Bears, with still needing some help defensively and another guy to rush the quarterback, I got to take the Commanders here, even though, but it's not going to be on a failed Mary. You think that would ever happen in Ben Johnson's lifetime?
I don't think that
No.
play before the Hail Mary would happen, and I don't think the Hail Mary would happen either. I think I'm going with the loss here as well. Mostly, it was a close game last year, but Jaden Daniels had pretty much broken ribs. Like he wasn't effective at all. He was injured. I think it's a loss for the Bears. I think it's just a tough matchup. I think Washington's interesting because obviously they'll have a tougher schedule with the better record after reaching the NFC Championship last year. But I think they hold on to what they do, and it really depends on how healthy Jaden Daniels stands. But I think at that point, Jaden will still be healthy, and they'll be able to eke out a win here. New Orleans at home in Week 7, Joe.
Oh, that's got to be a win, right? That's a win there. I'm looking at the schedule here. Yeah, home Saints. What are they going to do? Still, pretty proud franchise. But the Bears. This is a W.
Yeah, that's a win for me too. Week 8 at Baltimore.
I don't know how you pick the Bears. Although again, we'll kind of see what the Bears look at that point. What are we 6 weeks in now or so, right?
Yeah,
we got to see. But this is a test. Lamar's a load. And Derrick Henry. We're going to see Roquan. Bad trade, by the way. Ravens got the best player in the deal. Roquan is great. Now he's going to Pro Bowls. Baltimore.
Yeah, I think it's a Baltimore. They're contenders. You got to prove it. I think that's a prove it game, but I'm not going to put it out right now. Yeah. Week 9 at the Bengals, Joe.
I think they beat the Bengals because Trey Hendrickson is going to sack Joey Burrow 6 times in that game.
We'll see. Well, that would be something.
It's the Trey Hendrickson comes home to wreak havoc against Joey Burrow.
I am not as optimistic as you are. I think that's a tough. I think that's a throw for. I think a lot of Bears fans will go to that game. That's only a 4.5-hour drive down to Cincinnati. But I think this Bengals team is going to be motivated after just missing the playoffs last year. I think they're going to be at a different level if they're healthy. So I got them losing to the Bengals. Week 10, coming back home to play the Giants.
Oh, that's got to be the W, right? You're playing Russ, the Giants' new quarterback.
Maybe Jameis. You don't know who you're playing, but yeah.
Did they eventually draft a quarterback? Didn't they get one?
Yeah, they got Jackson Dart.
Oh, that's right, Jackson Dart. Yeah, I can't believe he'll be playing. It's going to be Russell Wilson's team initially, right? Russ still has some gas
Yeah.
left in him. You know, I don't think
he'll start it
he's
off.
done. But at home, especially, you got to win that game.
At Minnesota in Week 11, Joe.
Is it revenge for the Vikings after they lost to the Bears on Monday night to start the season? Boy, I don't like playing in that place. There's bad memories playing in it. Although other than the Jim McMahon to Willie Galt, before your day, Super Bowl Bears. I'll go. Man, I think the Bears sweep them.
Wow. Okay.
I'm thinking a dub here. Let's go.
I'm less optimistic. I'm going to go with a loss here. It's on the road. I think JJ figures it out at that point. I think he figures it out to a point where he can manage the offense. He gets it to Justin Jefferson. Kevin O'Connell is a great offensive coordinator, a great coach. I think he'll put him in a good spot. And I think that environment is tough. That's hard to play in. I know Ben Johnson has put up a lot of points on the Vikings. It's actually one of his better matchups. A little revenge game for Brian Flores, all that stuff. But I think they lose the second game. I think it's going to be hard to sweep them in both games.
Well, I'll tell you one more note on that. If JJ is outperforming Caleb at that point in the season, that's not going to go. That's not going to sit well with Bears fans.
No.
Our quarterback has to be better than their quarterback. But yeah, for the reasons you said, I get it. Bears can lose that one. Tough place to play, but.
Week 12, home at the Steelers.
Who's going to be the better coach on the football field that day? The great Mike Tomlin, or is it the new guy, our guy, Ben Johnson? Steelers are talk about teams that are used to winning every year to figure it out. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be the quarterback?
Yeah, it could be his return. We don't know. There's no
Who's
idea.
Their quarterback? It's not going to be Mason Rudolph. It can't be.
At this point, it is.
Because then they're tanking. If he's your quarterback, and they don't do that in Pittsburgh. This is not Chicago. They don't tank in Pittsburgh. Not with this guy, Mike Tomlin. But so they got to figure that out. But even if it is Aaron Rodgers, he's old. He's not Tom Brady. I don't know how much he's got left. Bears win.
All right, I'm with you there. I think they win that game, even if it is Rodgers. I think that's a good get-right game for them, especially at home. All right, Black Friday at Philadelphia, Joe.
Loss. Philly deserves that respect. I'm not going to pick against Philly here at home. That team, that O-line, they know what they're doing too much. I mean, they got the ring to prove it. Hard to pick the Bears. That would be, tell you what, I mean, anytime they beat an NFC North team going forward is going to be a big day for the Bears. But if they beat Philly there, that's a monster win. I don't see it happening, though.
Yeah, I think that's a tough task on a short week, on a holiday weekend. Yeah. I think that's too tough. That Eagles team is good. Week 14 at Green Bay, Joe.
Bears going for 2 in a row at Lambeau, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't even like saying Packers beat the Bears. I just get a little pain in my neck when I say that. But probably the Packers here.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I think they will. I think that's a good game. I think. I think it's a close game, but I think they lose that one. Week 15 at home at against the Browns.
Oh, it's got to be a W, right?
I think that's a W.
Although I'll say this, and I should have said this earlier. With you ever play in a confidence pool?
Yes, I have.
Team?
Yes.
You've done those, I stink at those. Because every week it's like, especially early in the season, we see like, how did that team beat that team? There's no way. I had that was my number 1 pick. That was my 16 pick, Yeah. And I lost. I'm bad at that because every week that's why we have the cliche any given Sunday, right? There are games that you just like that. No way it happened. I would have bet the mortgage on this team beating that team that day, and it didn't happen. I'd be on the street if I bet. I'd be broke. I would. Yeah. But that's a win. You got to be Cleveland, no matter which of their 5 quarterbacks on their roster is playing in that game.
Yeah, especially since it's a home game. You got to win that game. Week 16 at home against Green Bay.
Bears, let's go. It's a 3:30 game, or for now anyway.
It'll either be a 3:30 or a 6 o'clock game. The NFL will
Yeah,
decide that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm there
I'm going
with
to
you.
go Bears here. I think you split with the Packers. You want to sweep them. You never want to lose to them again in the history of the franchise. But you'll take a split, I think, with them. There's still a lot of respect for the Packers. Again, it hurts to say that, but it's still an excellent franchise and a good program and a great head coach in Matt LaFleur. So, I'll go Bears here at home.
Yeah, I think I think they split with the Packers. I think that's a nice win. Maybe they'll do a vice versa. Who knows? But I do think that they will split with the Packers. Week 17 at San Francisco. Joe, Sunday Night Football.
I go Niners here, just because the Niners, I get like, I get flinchy when I talk about the Niners because they just scare me, especially after what they did last year when they weren't healthy. Bears are better. I don't know if they're, and who knows what San Francisco will look like because, last year really wasn't them, and then they still look like monsters against the Bears. They look like monsters against the monsters. But I'll take the Niners here just because, I am just too wounded from the Niners and just how great a franchise that is. And again, another great head coach there, and I like the Niners here.
Yeah, I'm not betting against Kyle Shanahan at this
Yeah.
point. He's been there, he's done it. We'll see what the situation is with Brock Purdy. Obviously, George Kittle's back, and all that sort of stuff. But I think that's I think it'll be a much better game than it was last year. But I do think that the 49ers win that game. All right, regular season finale at home, Joe. We don't know when or where, or we know where, but we don't know when. Against the Lions.
And I don't even know what my record is right now. If everything goes, are you marking it down?
I am keeping track of it.
What do you got me right now at?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're at 10 wins.
I'm at 10 wins?
Yes. So you're at 10-6.
I'm such a sucker. See, you'd think I'd learn after as many years as I've been on this earth and as a Bears fan. You'd think I'd learn. They got to win that game. Do I have them at 11 wins then?
Yeah.
12? 11.
You have them at 11 wins.
All right. When the Bears finish 6-12 or 6-11 next year, yeah, you can call me and I'll say what a sucker I was. But but for now, I gotta feel good as a Bears fan for some months out of the year. Most of the months you're feeling miserable. So for right now, mid-May, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and I'm optimistic until week 1 when they're down 20-3 at halftime. Then I'll be, let's change all my picks.
Yeah, you're optimistic. You're at 11-7. I got them winning that finale at 9-8, okay. Which I'm proud of myself. I am at where I'm where I expected them to be. I have them at 9 or 8 wins. Yeah, and I think that could potentially make you the number 7 seed or the number 6 seed. I think they squeezes you into the playoffs, depending on what other teams do, how the division kind of plays out. But all right, Joe's got him at 11-7. I got him at 9-8. Book it. Let's see how things go in January of 2026.
Oh man!
But it's fun. It's fun to see how it kind of goes out.
It's so you're up and down the whole season with the Bears, aren't you? Excited, after one quarter, and then you're miserable by the end of the second quarter. It just goes up and down. It's right, probably for most fans of any team. So
yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but we got a lot of time before that kickoff against the Vikings to start things off. But that's everything that we've got for this week's episode. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Just a quick reminder, if you like what you hear on the live stream, give us a like. That's the best way to support us. Doesn't work for me, whatever. But make sure you like us. That's the best way to kind of spread the word about us. And always make sure you subscribe. Nice little review is always appreciated on podcasts or everywhere the podcasts are being recorded. So for Joe and I, thanks so much for joining us this week. We've got OTAs mini camp coming up, so we'll keep you guys informed when we'll be coming on next. But until then, we'll talk to you folks down the road.
See ya.